Hi, so here we go. I'm getting this out a little bit late because I started 3 classes yesterday full of teachers to teach them how to teach online. So I had 135 new students yesterday. On the fun side, I got most of them into Discord. So maybe there'll be more teachers out there using Discord. Who knows? We'll see how that goes. Anyhow, I did get the content open for the week for you guys sometime mid Sunday, I think. I just haven't had time to make the video. So here we are. It's a really interesting week. And let me grab something here. If we were in the class, I'd be bringing in, whoops, a whole set of these. Now, what are these? So our topic this week, we have two topics. One topic is networks, and we'll talk about that last. The other topic is virtual reality, and I have this whole set of Google cardboards, and it's almost like a little origami thing. And so you have to open it up, and then you flip. Like I said, it's almost like an origami thing. And then you get your phone. I'm sorry about the background. You stick your phone in here, and then you look through the cardboard. So I can't actually see if you can see me looking through the cardboard. Anyhow, it's really interesting because it really is made out of cardboard. And I remember the days when virtual reality headsets like Oculus were super expensive. Like, and they still are. They're really expensive. This guy, you can buy this for like $5. Like, look it up, Google Cardboard. These happen to be from Google for Education. They sent me a whole bunch for free a couple of years ago. I got some at a conference, and then I think I had like 10 of them. And then I asked the conference organizer, so what would it take to get maybe 15 more of these so I could have a classroom set? She said she'd check, and like a month later, 15 or 20, something like that, showed up on my doorstep. So I'm not complaining about that. They're a lot of fun. They're not as high tech, but they really do a good job, and let you see a lot of things on your own phone. So if we were in class, I'd be passing those out, and I would have asked you to put a couple of apps on your phone so that we could try things out. Um, if you want to really give it a shot, get a roller coaster app, because it's really weird how, like, I'm not a fan of roller coasters. I'll just be honest with you. I sort of like the ones, like, I like Space Mountain. I don't mind fast. I just don't like the ones that go like straight up, straight down, or upside down. Like Magic Mountain, not my thing. I think there's one roller coaster there that I rode last time I was there, but it's been a really long time. Anyhow, but it's really amazing how these VR apps that you see on your phone that are basically cartoons, like, they can make your stomach drop, they can make you feel dizzy. They're pretty good. They're pretty good. So the virtual reality tricks your brain into thinking you're really someplace. You are submerged in the environment. And that's a little bit different from augmented reality. Augmented reality, and maybe I'll put up an augmented reality. I'm going to write this down right now because I have an augmented reality app that if you wanted to try it, it's really interesting. And the difference is in augmented reality, you look through your phone and you can see what's on the other side, like you can see your room or whatever, but then stuff's happening on the screen. So a really good example of that is Pokemon Go. Like, if you've ever played that, right? You're looking through the screen and you see a Pokemon on your screen and you catch it. So that's augmented reality. But in virtual reality, you can't see through this. So everything exists within the world here. And it really does trick your brain into thinking that stuff is out there. So let's take a quick look at our website so that way I can show you what to look for. I'm just going to do well, I want to do desktop share. Anyhow, I'll do this share and then I'll break away and do a different share in a bit. So we have our our block for the week here. You'll see a tile for the video when that's available. But there's this whole series of think videos. And the reason I put them there is because most people think of virtual reality as just a game thing, right? It's just, it's cool. You play games and you do fun stuff and you go on roller coasters or whatever. Um, there really is a lot more to it than that. So read the checklist, because on the checklist, I give the descriptions for the different videos that you can see. I think you're going to find them very interesting. There's a couple of TED Talks, several of these are TED Talks, but this one here, it's really kind of funny actually, and it gives a little bit of the history of virtual reality, at least from the perspective of Chris Milk. He has done videos for Kanye and Arcane Fire and just all kinds of stuff. But he did this video for the United Nations, and what he wanted to do was to bring the people who make the decisions about refugee camps. He wanted to bring them to the camp. Now these people are meeting in Europe or wherever they're meeting in New York, someplace, and most of them have never been to a Syrian refugee camp. And I believe the one that he did the movie of is in Jordan, okay, the country of Jordan. And so he talks about the process of making this video and basically following this little schoolgirl through her day. So you can see the dirt floor of their tent. You can hear her, brother crying. You can kind of look around in the app and see what she's seeing. So you can, look around and see the family and see the food and, all of that. Super interesting, and the impact that it had. Now in class, I would have you put this within app. Let me scroll up here just a little bit. There's an app called with.in or at with.in within that has all kinds of different interesting movies on it, including this one. So in class, we'd actually watch this one or experience it through the Google Cardboards. But there is a YouTube version of it that'll at least give you an idea, and it's only 8 or 9 minutes long, but it takes you through parts of her day. So that's one aspect of virtual reality. Now, this other one's super interesting. Oh my goodness. And it's the same guy, actually. It's Chris Milk. The birth of virtual reality is an art form. So how can you create art in a three-dimensional space that isn't really there? I'll just leave it at that. This next one, inmates are using VR for a chance to get out of prison. And there was a Colorado prison that is doing a pilot project where inmates who were in there, they were incarcerated as teenagers for really horrendous crimes, murders and rapes and just really bad things. And then, and they have life terms. Okay. So this program, if they go through this program, it gives them an opportunity to possibly get an early release. Okay. And so it's interesting how they're using virtual reality. And as you're watching that, I want you to think about, why would they use it? At one point, it shows one of the inmates, and they're actually in like an Oculus headset. They've got the whole thing on, that they're using in this program, but you can see the screen of what they're seeing. And at one point, they're kind of out on the African savannah, and then this elephant comes up and does the big elephant thing right in front of him. And he actually like steps back, even though he knows it's just a movie, right? But the feeling of it coming. So why would they show stuff like that to the inmates? What would be the point? I'll let you think about that. That might be something good for your insight this week. They also do practical things, like some of these guys have been in prison for 25 years. So when they went to prison, people didn't have cell phones. There wasn't self checkout at the grocery store. There's a whole bunch of things. So it kind of takes them through some daily routines and scenarios just so they kind of would be familiar with what's going out there. Anyway, super interesting video, not very long, but it's very interesting. And then this last VR video, scientists have found a way to make paraplegics move again. So paraplegics, they're paralyzed, fully paralyzed, no function in their legs. And between putting them in virtual reality and exoskeletons, so you might have to look up what that is. Well, you'll see it in the video. What they see themselves walking. So they go through this process where they visualize themselves walking. And after a period of time, and it wasn't a short period of time, and it was a lot of work, after a period of time, all of the people in this video were reclassified as only partially paralyzed. They regained some movement in their legs. They regained some control over like their bladder control and their bowel control, which is like a huge thing. Anyhow, so it would be really interesting to follow up on that video and see if they continued with these people even longer, if they regained more. So virtual reality, super, super interesting thing. There's just lots more to it than what people think of gaming. And one of the things I want you to go look and see if you can find out for the insight is, are there any other applications? Like what else is virtual reality getting used for, especially if it's something we hadn't really thought about? So down to the practical part, our chapter, if you go to the checklist, you'll see we have read unit 3, networks and computer concepts, okay? And so down here in the learn part, there's 3 videos, these crash course computer science videos on networks. And watch them in order. I mean, they're set up in order. So, the first one talks about networks in general, a little bit about the history of networks. It'll bring up things like ARPANET and just some of these very early ways that networks were connected, or that networks connected computers. This second video goes into the biggest network we know, the internet. And then the third video narrows it down a little bit and talks about the network called the World Wide Web. And so altogether, all 3 videos, I think only are going to take like 36 minutes. I think they're about 12 minutes each. So in about a half an hour, you're going to know more about networks than probably almost anybody you know, at least in terms of general ideas of what they are. But I will tell you that they impact almost everything we do, from phone networks to energy grid networks to social networks. I mean, this concept of networks is something that is around us all over the place. So I made it a really light homework week because, oh my gosh, we just had like a really heavy homework week and something is due on Wednesday on the Evaluating Sources project. And so I didn't want to explode your brain too much. So I moved the Evaluating Sources upload to this week since you have to upload the PDF there. Oops, that needs to get closed because sadly we can't do that one, create the VR tour. So I'll make sure that's closed. The thing I want you to do with VR mostly is on the insights. I'll put up a channel in Discord, and I really want you to see if you can find out other applications of VR. But going back to the main homework assignment, and it won't take you very long, but I think you'll find it interesting. How to get from here to there. Okay, now there's not a ton of information right here. There are a couple of picture examples, but mostly when you click the link, you're going to come over to this form. Now, you have to use an application called a traceroute, which means you have to know what that is. And so this link here will show you how to access traceroute on several different things. Let's see. How to run it on Windows, a couple of different versions, how to run it on your Mac, which I'm going to show you, how to run on Linux, kind of what it shows you, all the details. It's a good link, useful link. You should at least scan over it if you don't know how to find it. Now, you have to do 2 things. First, you have to get your IP address. Now, what's an IP address? Well, you'll know that when you watch those videos on networking, and you'll know what a traceroute does, and you'll know what hops are. Like all of that will make sense. So watch those 3 videos first. But let's go to what's my IP. When you go there, it automatically detects this is your IP. That's what it is. Okay. So pay attention to that. And it will give you some other information like right here, let's see, a little bit of a different interface than what I was just looking at. Your IP address. So when you go here, it's going to show you like who you're connected to, just some different information. So explore this and see it's detecting what kind of computer I'm on, my screen resolution, what browser I'm using. I'm not in the middle of the ocean, so I don't know why it maps there. And it gives lots of details, okay? Figure out what your IP address is because one of the questions will ask you to put in what your IP address is. What's the address, location, and the host info? And she give you that information. Now, the second one is the trace route. And this one's a little tricky because depending on where you're doing this from, you may or may not be able to get to the sites that I'm sending you to. So I'm giving you permission to supplement a different site, okay? So my example is visitgreenland.com, and I'm going to have to unscreen share or rescreen share here in just a minute and show you how that works. The 3 sites I'd like you to fill out the information for are to do a trace route from your location to Google, to the San Diego Zoo, and to the government of South Africa. Now, I couldn't get Australia to work. Like Australia wouldn't work. I don't know why. So if you can get Australia to work, that's probably farther than the government of South Africa. But I tried to find one that was pretty far away. that you could access. And what you're going to do for each of the three of these is run a trace route. And then you're going to look up, it'll give you, and I'll show you when I run this one for Greenland. The results will give you some IP addresses, and just look up a couple of them and see where they're from. Okay. And let me come back up here. So this is the example of what it would look like. I did trace route for Greenland. It took 21 hops. So a hop is every time it hits a network, a different network, to get from here to Greenland. I pulled a couple of those IP addresses, and what was super interesting to me is on the one from Greenland. So we're here, right, in the Victor Valley, and it jumped to Los Angeles, and then it jumped all the way to London, and then it came back to Mountain View. Now, what's in Mountain View? Google is in Mountain View, and then it landed in Greenland. So, here's the hop. So let me see if I can do let me do a new share where I share my desktop. But I'm going to minimize. Oh, it says I can't minimize it. Well, then let me just pull this trace route up over. If you're on a Mac and you click the hourglass, the spotlight, network utility, that's what we want. We want network utility. And the network utility, there, I'll cover me up. The network utility is going to have a whole bunch of different things. Explore around, try ping, try lookup, but trace route's what we want, okay? So I have visit Greenland in here. So you're going to put like google.com or whatever. Trace route has started. See, it's still spinning. It's numbering the hops, so we're up to 7. And I'm going to see if it's going to get to this point. There's the one in London. Oh, see, there's an asterisk. That means something. If it doesn't pull up some more information, what that usually means is it's hitting a firewall. Oh, no, it got past it. Amsterdam. So right now it's trying to get from my computer to the visitgreenland.com website. Now you don't see any of this when you type this into a web browser. This is all behind the scenes stuff. So no matter what website you type in, what is really happening is this right here. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of hops. We're up to 20, 21. Now it'll be interesting to see if it goes more or less, because when I did it for the example, it was 21. But here's another asterisk, so we might be hitting the firewall now. Yeah, I think it's getting ready to start. Yeah. So now we're at the end. We can't get any farther than this. At least not with traceroute, but I don't have any hacker tools on my website. So I'm gonna hit stop. And so you can kind of look over here and you'll see the IP addresses. Usually they're in the parentheses. Okay, sometimes they're out here like this first one, which is probably my home network, actually, my router. That's kind of the generic one. But you can see all the IP addresses. So just pull a couple that look interesting. Like, and if they show this, if they show what they're from, what you can do is copy it, go back to the what's my IP site, which I closed, but let me go back up to it. And then you can go look up. I can now type in that IP address that I just pulled off at traceroute. I can do a search. And it will say, here's some information about it. So it may not give me all the details I want. Country EU. So it's in the European Union. Sometimes it'll tell you who owns it, like what site it is. It depends on what site you picked. I hit trace again, but I think it's just going to pull up the same information. Yeah. So that's part of what that's what's behind me, actually, is the Visit Greenland picture that I put up for you. It's really interesting. Just try it with some different sites. Like I said, if the 3 sites that I put there don't work for you for whatever reason, like you hit a roadblock, it says you can't find it, there might be firewalls in place, like who knows, right? Try it with, just pick 3. Pick 3 of your favorite sites. Like if you got a gaming site, See if you can pick one that's a little closer. See if you can pick one that's maybe across the country. See if you can pick one that is across the world. And it will be really interesting to see how many network connections it has to go through, before it comes up on your screen in 5 seconds. And 5 seconds is a long time. It moves pretty fast. Anyhow, I hope you find this a really interesting week. I hope you have a really good Thanksgiving. I hope somewhere in there you get to take a break. I think the homework for this week's not going to take you very long. I think it'll be interesting. You've got maybe an hour's worth of videos to watch, and doing the form will only take you a couple of minutes. Put a little bit of effort into your insight, because I really am curious about what you think about what you watched on the VR videos. And just have a really good weekend. It's going to be cold, but it's going to be nice.